And we're live. Welcome to another great, wonderful, fabulous, terrific episode of Horror Talk. And we are waiting on Sim. He's usually here early. Tonight he's late. He might be napping. He has been recovering for a wrist injury. You'll understand Sim is an illustrator. He makes a living on illustrating. The man draws 24 hours a day, pretty much. You know what I mean? Like, probably draws in his sleep. That's why his wrist is hurting. He's been playing too many video games. And
it's a video game, right? It's a video game related injury.
Exactly. Oh, Brian just killed himself. He'll be back in a moment.
Yeah, he just offed himself in this horror movie. I mean, he didn't even get to opening credits. Boom, he's out.
Right. He's just out. He's just jumping out. Here he's back now. Here we go. We were just telling people how
Brian, we thought you died in the horror movie in the credits. I mean, your character, you didn't make it through the credits.
No, I got shanked. But no, actually, it's my keyboard. I just, for some reason, if I tap by accident the space key, I just drops my ass right out. So I'm keeping that keyboard far and away from myself. And we see Pepper Potts in the background. Hi, Pepper Potts. Pepper Potts is one of Drew's kitties.
Oh yeah. The cats there are going. I like that.
I know, I do too. And sometimes she gets really aggressive and will like come up and like just start looking at him, just staring at him during a live stream. And she's like that, like, hey, I'm here. Give me some attention.
Okay, well, I did, so we could go live on time. I did stop your story. You were talking about something when we had DT as a guest.
Oh yeah. It was the wildest thing. He like, you know, because we're talking before we started streaming about like always checking like your background because people will notice things. He noticed something that just blew my mind. He said, "Is that a Night Train to Terror poster, like behind you?" And I was like, "No, there's no way. That's no way. Possible. There's no way. Like that's a really obscure horror movie that's cobbled together from bits of other unfinished horror movies." But and I'm like, how did you notice that? But he's like a horror fan. He's legit, and that's actually a present from a friend of mine. And you know it's legit that it's not like a reproduction because no one in the right mind would ever make a reproduction of a Night Train to Terror poster. so that shit's authentic. But yeah, no, that was wild. I thought for sure Drew had said something to him just to like blow my mind. But
no. That would have been something I would have tried to set you up with because it would have impressed you. But no, but I did not. I would have. It was a good guess that I would have been guilty of that because that would be something I would do. But no, I did not do it.
But then it turns out that DT has a friend who is obsessed with Night Train to Terror, and I think that's how he recognized it. Like he has like the best part. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Is that we all know people who are like fixated on certain movies and like collect all the stuff. I've got Captain Kronos, Vampire Hunter, lobby cards hanging from my wall. So
love it.
I get it.
I just got a message from Sim who just had some family surprise drop in on him, so he may not be making it tonight. So
that's okay. Is it a good surprise?
So it says surprise visit. So,
oh, okay. All right. Okay, so it's not like
read that as you like. It could be like good family, bad family, good surprise, bad surprise.
Okay, as long as like none of his kids had like a kitchen accident and has to be rushed to the emergency room.
He said I had.
I think it's just Sim doesn't like me.
He has family over for supper.
I mean, this is the second stream I've been on that he was supposed to be in that he's no-showed. So I think
really,
I think he doesn't like me.
Did Sim not no-show did he no-show the other stream, or it was a different stream, not this one? It was.
I was out with Mandy, and yeah. So it's I get it. I see he's got issues with me. I get it. What can we do?
Adam, you have to take these things personally.
You
You have to,
Everything
man.
take it personally, and then tweet about it incessantly.
Yes,
Load it with
exactly.
some racially
Yup.
charged comments
Yup.
and kill your career.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also be sure that you, like, while you're doing that, you dedicate yourself also to going behind people's backs and talking shit about them.
Right, exactly. If you don't do that, then what's the point, right?
Yeah, that's what it means to be a good person.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I gotta take notes.
I caught some of you on Mandy's stream. I think she might be having me on tonight. Man, Adam, I gotta say, you have killed it. It has been absolutely wonderful seeing you on all these different streams. My Grade Point 5 peeps had you on.
Yeah, they were so great.
Aren't they awesome?
Great. I love them. Optimus is, I mean, he's such a great comedian. I didn't think, I didn't think about it going in, but like all the jokes and the bits and everything that he does, I mean, he's special for sure. That whole team. I mean, it's been, Brian, thank you so much for inviting me into the team. It's been really, it's been like, it's just such an awesome community, and thank you.
Brother,
I don't know what to say it. Then thank you. So,
oh man,
I owe you.
No, you don't. You don't owe me shit, brother. Remember, we're a pay it forward community.
That's right. It's going forward.
Yep. So, like, the next person that comes along that has a book that looks like it's fire, right? But they're having trouble getting funded, you help that person along.
That's yeah. I mean, I've backed probably, probably 20 books in the last couple weeks, the last few weeks, and or maybe more. And I would say, not just out of obligation, I mean, I'm genuinely interested. And it's like,
yes,
it's actually just fun to do it, right? Because it's like, who knows what's going to happen with Absolute? Who knows what's going to happen with Star Blades? Like, I'm just interested now to see. It's that feeling on Comic Book Day, right? When you go and you're like, ooh, what's that cover? And you're like going down the line.
Yeah.
But now you're helping. Now you're doing it with people who are like, I put my whole heart into this. Like, this is everything on the line. And so it's like, that's really something special to be a part of. You don't get to be a part of that much in life. And so I kind of think of it as like, that ride is almost as much fun as when the book shows up.
Absolutely.
It's also pretty rare because you actually get to meet and know intimately a great deal of indie creators. You know what I mean? And some of them already have careers. Some of them are just starting their careers. So you get to watch, like think about it, like Todd McFarlane when he was first coming out with Spawn. You know what I mean? If you met him and he was all humble and he was helping you out, and you're just like real casual, and then 20 years later you're like, I got the first book in crowdfunding mode. You know what I mean? It was
signed.
That's like signed.
Yeah, it's such a cool thing. I remember I saw this movie called Narc. Did you ever see this? Back in the day, Joe Carnahan directed it. I saw it at Sundance, right before Joe Carnahan was anything. It was Ray Liotta and Jason Patric were in it, and I remember meeting the guy afterward, right, and just chatting with him about whatever. And it was such a special experience in that film and his career and everything. I just stayed connected to in the scene before I was directing television, and it was just. It's cool. There's nothing quite like that, right? You're like, oh, I was there on the ground floor, and boy, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
Yeah, it is. And plus, it's fun getting comics in the mail. And like you said,
awesome.
Every single project is a passion project. Nobody's just phoning it in. It's like people are putting their heart and their souls into these works. And the thing that always makes me the happiest, as and I always sound like a broken record here, is seeing people like my Grade Point 5 peeps who have been hosting people like us, have been promoting indie creators.
They've been doing great. Yep.
Yeah, and then they're like, you know what? Okay, why don't we throw our hat in the ring? And then they do it, and then they're killing it. And that's
totally.
Yeah, so there's so many dreamers that are watching people like us, and we're inspiring them to make them think that, hey, maybe they should give it a shot. Maybe they can do this too. And that's just especially rewarding.
Totally. It absolutely is. Totally.
It's all about the dreams.
It is, right? It is. Well, M62259, they're asking questions about Escape the Night. And so So what's
let's read the question here. Hold on, let's read the
yeah,
question.
read it out to everybody.
So, when it comes to escape the night and filming in subgenre of scripted and unscripted, how hard is it when it comes to filming and scripted compared to live gameplay? And then there's a follow up here. It says, especially when it comes to deaths on the show, I kind of expected something more cinematic.
Yeah. So so for those who don't know, in Escape the Night, it's a horror fantasy series that I've been writing and directing for the last 4 seasons. It's on YouTube Originals. It's been the longest running show, and we've won the most amount of streamies. It's been a really great ride. Joey Graceffa is my star, and what happens in that show is the stars of the show, the YouTube stars, dress up and go back in time, and then they live the TV show in real time. So all the other actors, the explosions, deaths, literally cars exploding, people getting shot, clowns with guns, all that's all rehearsed and just happens to them in real time, and they react to it. And we have multiple cameras, and we film it all in real time. And so it's and so what I would say to your answer is filming the live gameplay is the absolute hardest possible way to make television. I've shot, before I did Escape the Night, I probably set up and shot 2,000 or 3,000 shots across the indie movies I've done, etc. So many. And Escape the Night is so hard to make the live gameplay that usually the network can't even stomach it. My executives can't even get through it because it's too exhausting and stressful. Because if you can imagine, what's happening is there's 250 crew members on set, by the way, for that night, between cast and crew, for each one of these nights of filming. And not only is, and I'm hearing it all, so it's 10 people talking simultaneously, myriad of things happening all real time. So imagine the stars of your show, you're putting on a play for them, right? Because the play has to be happening real time without mistakes so that they can react to it. And then you're filming that so that you can give it to an audience, right? So you have a play happening while you're shooting a TV show, and it all happening real time with real. And so every time they open a door, go through a secret passage, or a swamp man tears out of the wall, that's just happening right then, and I just get one shot. So I'm in headsets. So I have, on my left ear I have the cast, on the right ear I have camera operators and ADs, and then I have another director next to me. And so real time, I'm feeding dialogue real time because the story's shifting because lots of it's being improvised, and actors will have a moment that they were planning on, and then it's like, oh shit, that didn't happen now. And now I've got to redirect us back into it real time so that the stars don't know it. So and so as a result, it's so stressful and chaotic that unless you really intimately know every piece, you just go, I just can't. Even lots of my own crew members, people are usually crying and screaming by the end of the shoot because it takes a lot out of them. So it's really hard. And so I think that and then as far as for the scripted scenes, we have these little 1-minute scenes that open up the episodes that are scripted, and then I shoot them in traditional cinematic style. And it's so easy to shoot that in comparison that the crew is almost asleep because they've just been, it's so stressful. But the deaths happen the real time in that night. And now what I wish I had was, more time to shoot those because it's all going real time. So literally I get to set at that point. I'm behind the operators, and in real time, right as they get killed, I just step in front of the cameras, tell their YouTuber real time how they're going to die, and then we shoot it just almost close to real time. So that's how the deaths end up being. And I think in this last season, they weren't as dramatic as they'd been in seasons 1, 2, and 3. And I think that the deaths, in any horror, is always everybody's favorite part. How are people dying, and what's the drama of it? So, I may not have. I wish I had delivered more exciting deaths this last season, but I think season 3 we really did. So that's a long answer.
Most definitely.
To that question. So I'll throw that out there.
That would give me a heart attack. I don't deal with stress very well.
Oh man.
Oh my God. Yeah. No.
It's some tears out there. And then also too, your talent, who are lovely, but they're not really used to the stress either. So most days I get to set and it's like, hey Adam, can you talk to so and such star? He's in the trailer. right now, and he's crying and upset about something, or she's crying and upset about it. And I go in and I get told, "Hey, you effing idiot! I can't believe you're having me do this. I effing hate you. I hate this." It's that, and it's like, and as a television director, that's also your life. Is you're getting that from your star in the first 5 minutes,
Oh.
and it's like, how do you then navigate that so that they can? And it's not that they really hate you; they're just at their limits, right?
Right.
And so you can't, and then and by the end of the night they love you and they're happy and they're so grateful for what happened. But that's kind of that's what it's like.
Oh, sounds like a pressure cooker.
It is, and that's usually that conversation is happening at like 3 a.m. and
God.
so there's not really, because the whole thing shoots at night, so it's all night shoots for a month, and it does a number.
Yeah, it sounds very nerve fraying. I salute you, sir, because I'd be off at a corner somewhere with my teddy bear sucking my thumb and within 5 minutes. No way, man.
No, I actually, it sounds fun to me. I like, believe it or not, I like, there's certain kinds of pressure that I don't do well with. Like when money is really, really tight and I'm like wondering how like a certain bill is going to get paid, that kind of pressure like eats my stomach in half. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then with somebody who's like an actual important part of my life is having an issue, like we're having an issue, that kind of stress will like mess me up. But like the, like the kind of thing of like a deadline that I can't handle, that I don't have the answer to yet, and it's coming up on me. That kind of stress will wake me. But the kind of stress of like a workload, like a chaos, that kind of stuff, man. I thrive on that kind of stress, man. So
you see, I'm the opposite. I deal real well, like when it's like crisis mode, when like people are in trouble, like physically, that sort of a thing. I'm like, boom! I just like somehow I manage to just focus and be very Spock-like. But if you got like a bunch of people screaming at you in one ear and screaming at you in the other, I'd be like within like 5 minutes.
That's the hard part. You've got 10 cameras going, and they're cinema cameras. It's not like locked. They're not. These are not just cameras that are set up and left. They're operators, and so they need to be all directed and maneuvering. But yeah, so I think and your follow up question there is how would you compare it to a prank or scare show? A prank or scare show is not collaborative make believe. With Escape Tonight, it's collaborative make believe, because the stars of the show want to be on this story, and they're in a narrative world versus just I'm in real life and you scared me. Instead, you scared me and now I need to react and solve the problem, because they're helping me tell the story in a way. It's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons or something like that, where we're working together to tell the story. And like season 3, Matt, Pat, and Sophia Nygaard were so good about this. They'd come to set every morning and be like, Adam, how can you push us harder? Like, where do we need to go to help tell the story better? And I think that's an exciting interaction that can come when your actor comes to you and says, push me this way, or how can I get pushed to help tell the story? Because you're doing it as a team. And that's, I think, the difference between a prank show, which you're not doing it as a team. They're not you're trying to get something out of them in a somewhat exploitive way.
Right.
Whereas my cast starts the show realizing that they're going to do some pretending.
Right. I just hope that you're working with troopers and not divas, because divas would be a real problem in a situation like that.
I know some of the people he's working with. He's got both.
Okay. Without naming names, we got it.
That's what I like to say. It's all part of the ride. Go ahead, Cindy.
I wanted to ask you, because I find it fascinating how you're filming the show. So like you said, it's almost real time. Most of it's real time. Yeah. So are you setting up blocking, and who's like being like the switcher, like calling the camera?
Thank you, Black Star. Yeah. So the way it works out is, so I rehearse it like a play first. And that includes all of the real-time practical effects, the merry-go-rounds, the motorcycle stunt driver coming through, the knife-wielding clowns. That all gets done and rehearsed. I rehearse it like a play. So it's like, but instead of me having a stage, in that example at season 3, I have a whole town. So we had a whole town that we'd taken over Paramount Ranch. And so I'm directing a play that's 3-dimensional, moving all across the town. And then I have a technical director with me, who's amazingly talented, whose only thought is where the cameras are going. And he and I work together as I'm staging all the blocking as to where the cameras are going to go to what he's going to try and catch real time, right? And then sometimes we have to hold the actors and hold the action for a minute because the cameras get locked somewhere, or we got to get the cameras ahead and that kind of thing. So then in the action, then what's happening is I'm cueing the director, cueing the actors and interfacing with the actors, and cueing when a clue or a puzzle or a plot point's going to change. And my technical director is beside me talking to the camera operators because no one brain can be seeing both. So I'm listening to the conversation and he's waiting for me to say, oh, I'm going to then, like, I'll be listening to 2 actors talking and I'll wait till their discussion reaches a point and then I'll cue the monster to come in to break through the window, right? So he's waiting for me with his cameras. He's like, Adam, when are you ready for that? And I'll set him up. He moves the camera into position. Then I'll cue the monster. So that's kind of the dance. So he and I, have to be really at the hip. And it's, sometimes he's yelling at me and sometimes I'm yelling at him, not in a mean way, but just because you're so like, is it coming, Adam? Is it coming? He's screaming at me like he's got to know. So, so that's how it's handled. And then I have an amazing first AD. Her name's Lizzie McPherson, who then runs the operation almost like a stage manager in a play. And she has different ADs at points that are like sending out a monster, receiving one, setting up a stunt person. And then we also have these escape room style puzzles that are being solved. Lots of times for them to solve clues, but they're drinking a poison or they're doing something. And so while that's happening, then I have another games person who's just watching that game in case there's an error with it, etc. And so it's like that's how it's managed, is essentially me, the technical director, the first AD, and the games producer, all working.
Yeah, it sounds very military.
It is. It's a lot to do, but it's really fun. And Black Star, thank you for the congrats on the campaign. And I think that's probably to more than just me, because Brian, if you haven't seen Six Gun Gorilla, you should, and you should be backing that, and you should be backing it hard.
Man. Thanks, brother.
Brian broke 15K with Six Gun Gorilla. Was it this weekend that happened?
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Nice work.
Thanks, brother. Thanks. Couldn't have done it without Drew. Everybody go back Captain Love, by the way. But yeah, no, that's the power of CG, man. It's the power of this wonderful community of creators.
Yeah.
And
it's at 15,262, so it's blasted past 15K now. Yeah. So that's great.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Adam. I appreciate that, brother. And you're a wonderful asset to this community. Glad to have you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you definitely belong with our crew, man, because we have a lot of the same interests.
Most definitely.
I think so, right?
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
And the beautiful thing is that I find that the more people that I have that I network with, you know what I mean, we all have things in common, like obviously the horror people who are also into comic creation, you know what I mean, that are that kind of stuff. Like Brian and I are like we connected because we were both like script writers, and I have been doing like low scale filmmaking. I've been like assistant director and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Cool. So I know all what that. I mean, it's like I understand that world well. So when we talk about this stuff, it's like it's totally like I know exactly what you're saying, and I wait for the day that I can like handle actually like get to work on a big production, that kind of stuff. Those opportunities haven't risen for me yet, but someday they will, and then I'll have somebody like you that can be like, oh hey dude, tell me what to expect about this.
Right. Right.
Well, I'll tell you what to expect is that an interesting thing, I've worked for big companies on a lot of jobs I do commercials as well as TV and film. And what doesn't ever change is you think that, oh great, now I'm working for this big company X company, I won't give a name, or I'm working for this other big X Fortune 500 company, they're going to have it all dialed in. And the executives are going to be have read everything, and they're going to be these, Harvard prototypes that are just going to it's going to be so exciting how committed they are. And that's not what happens. What you come to find is when you're making a movie for 1 million or for 10 or a big studio, that it's all the same things. The problems just got bigger and more expensive. So unfortunately, I'm going to let you know that is that because you run into the same things. So-and-so didn't actually read this draft. I remember being on a movie for MTV Films way back in the day when the executive was on set, really questioning and frustrated about a scene, but he was reading draft 4 and we were shooting draft 13, and he just hadn't picked up in between, and that was the ride. And so I think that there's that side of it. So I think the most important thing to realize, having made many indie movies and small projects, is the skill set that you have there. It's going to be the exact same one you use when you're working for a bigger studio, and the exact same ability to solve problems and to help convince people and the double check things and all that. That'll never go away. And so the good news is all those skills you're learning are real, and you're going to use them exactly the same way you use them now. It's just instead when you say bring in the such and such thing, it's now this really cool expensive build, but it's still going to have like, oh shit, so and so forgot the hydraulic thing.
Right.
And
the engine that makes the octopus's tentacles move.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing a commercial for Fallout, right? So it's $1 million commercial where they're on set. We have one of the best prop makers in the world, built all these incredible guns and weapons. He got delayed, and we're setting up the camera, and we don't have the prop on set, right? We don't have the prop on set. The director's, is looking over at me. I was producing the spot, and we're just looking at each other. And I'm like, and then you're like, we got wet guns getting handed to people in this $1 million job. The paint's drying on camera. So I wish there was. They look amazing. That's the perk, is that when you're making a tiny movie, that they don't look so great and they're still drying. Now they look amazing, but they're still drying. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, that's what's so useful about audio commentaries on DVDs. What's so useful about so many filmmaking magazines that I grew up with, like American Film and Film Comment, is that you discover that what William Goldman said was true, which is like nobody knows anything. Which is to say, it's like you think that everybody, like, they've got this, and then you find out what's actually going on a film set, and it's just like complete chaos.
No, it's so funny, right? Because I remember when I first pitched Escape the Night, and I wish I could tell you the budget, M62259, but I can't, because it's kind of part of the deal that I can't reveal those kind of secrets.
We'd have to kill you.
We'd have to kill you. But it's more expensive than a regular YouTube video. But
no budget usually.
Yes. So is that or they just go with that? Oh yes, that when I first pitched Escape the Night, the network said to me, and the woman who's the president of the network, who are our good friends today, she's the president of big companies, MTV, etc. She said, Adam, this is simply not going to work. I mean, this is no good. This is not going to work. I don't know how. I don't even know what you're making, really. I mean, I would get on phone calls every week because you have a weekly network call, and they'd be like, I don't actually know. What is this going to be again exactly, Adam? And they just said, well, I guess we're YouTube, so we can let you fail. And then we became the longest running series and most award winning, and it created something really special. William Goldman was right, Brian. You don't know. And so even people who are really qualified could not know. And that doesn't mean that they're stupid. They're not. Right. They're really committed. They just don't always sometimes see it. And that's okay, because you don't always see it either. Let's just be honest. We're not always that smart ourselves.
Right. It's like one of the most common questions that people get who have been on the sets of masterpieces or classics is, did you know that you were making a classic? And the answer is almost always no. Or people who have been in classic legendary bombs, like cinematic disasters. Did you know? And very often, no, I just thought it was like any other regular picture, and then we got, into like we were watching the dailies and like, oh crap.
Yeah.
And so many films also have been saved just through post-production, through the editing process. High Noon, I believe, was thought of as a disaster when they after they shot it, and it was saved in the editing room. So, but of course, here you're talking about something you don't have an editing room to save the production. You missed the shot. You're shit out of luck.
Yeah, you got to live it.
Yeah, that part's scary. That part's really scary.
Like really scary.
Yeah.
It's
horror.
Not in a good way.
No, not in the good way. It makes it really hard to do. But and I agree. I remember when I first came to Los Angeles, I was working for these two guys ADing a movie. Their names were Chris Riot and Sean Covell. They produced Napoleon Dynamite, and I AD'd their second and third movie after that. And I remember sitting in Sean's living room, watching on VHS a rough cut of Napoleon, and literally us getting done with watching that rough cut. When will we? Everybody looked around at each other and said, "So when are we going to tell Jared his parents aren't going to get their money back?" You know what I mean? That's, like who's going to say that? Like who's going to tell that? And it turned out to be one of the most successful indie movies of all time. So you don't know.
Right.
And so, but that's the fun of the movie business, right? Is that it isn't defined yet. It isn't defined even when you make the film. It isn't undefined until somebody sits and watches it. Right. It's like the idea of superposition in atoms, right? You can't know both the velocity and the location of a particle at once until you observe it, until it hits something, right? And that's the same thing true with making a movie or making a comic book or any creative endeavor that hasn't been done is you don't know until it's observed.
Yeah.
Until an audience sits in front of it, right? Yeah. And my cinematographer, his name's Dallas Sterling, and his uncle is a multi-Academy Award-winning production designer. He did RoboCop and Back to the Future, and he's very successful. And he remembers, how the gun came out of his thigh. That wasn't initially there in RoboCop with Verhoeven, right? And it was something that just got thrown in the last minute. Or the Back to the Future wasn't a car initially; it was like a box. It wasn't the DeLorean. And then these decisions were made that made history, while they were at it. And that's why it's fun to be a part of it, I think. And I think that, horror is, speaking of horror talk, what's so cool about, if you've ever made a horror movie, and I know you have, Mr. E, it's like, and Cindy, I'm sure you've made them too. Sometimes when you're on set, nothing's scary because it's like, you're there, like, you're talking to the camera real time and something's really annoying and the actress is really giving her all, and it's like, but it's not moving at a really, it's not moving at the movie pace that you experience. Sometimes it feels scary,
right?
But it becomes that way, and so.
Well, also you don't have music. You don't have music. You don't have the sound effects and everything like that. Sound is such an important part of horror. At the same time, of course, my goodness, you look at some of those old silent horror films, and like Nosferatu, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. They're different skill sets that have been applied. Or, the fact that the Italian horror movies, which are my absolute favorites, those were all shot silent. Those were all shot without sound. So, people would be working and, there'd be like, people having conversations and shit falling. And, oh, my God, you can only imagine what that was like.
And I agree. Right. And that's that's why I think you have to divorce sometimes what you feel on set with what you're making. Because I often try to tell people this. They're like, "Oh, this feels like this." I'm like, "Don't think about what you feel. Think about what happened between action and cut."
Right. And another thing is that Another, yeah, and also you're almost never going to be able to make the movie that you see in your head. It's always about trying to get as close to that vision as possible.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the difference when you're scout. Like I mean, with Escape the Night, you probably don't have this option as well as like when you're making like a short or a movie. I actually haven't made a full length horror film. I've only made like shorts on my own where I'm actually
Same here.
the director. You know what I mean? But what I have found is that you can make the movie in your head first and make the movie that you have in your head, but you got to scout it out really good ahead of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Escape the Night is super scouted and detailed. You got to. But wouldn't you say this, though, Mr. E, that I think also this, sometimes people say, I want to make the movie that's in my head. And I often say, the movie that's in your head isn't actually a movie. It doesn't exist.
Right.
What exists is your actors in front of you, your camera, the set, the props. That's real. And so you have what's in your head. But then when the real things are come together, there's another process that's going to occur that can't be undermined, because in the core of it, that's where you make the movie. You can't actually make it here.
Right. Well, because the actors, first of all, won't do what you have in here.
And maybe they're going to do something better than you have in there.
Right.
Right.
And being willing to accept, like, that's better than what I thought.
Or maybe they're going to do 2 or 3 or 4 different versions of what you have in your head, and then on the editing floor, you're going to use the best, and it's going to end up being better than you imagined. Yeah.
And then there are those happy accidents, right? Like, one of the most important things you can tell an actor is, if you fuck up, keep going, because sometimes those fuck ups, result in something that's spontaneous, and that's why mainstream Hollywood movies these days are so sterile, and low budget films very often are so much more alive and vibrant, is because they will include those little bits that normally would get cut out of a mainstream movie, because sometimes those moments are where you get the magic.
Right. I totally agree. I totally agree.
And hail the chat, by the way.
Yeah. So if you guys, if nobody picked up or doesn't already know, Escape the Night is the most successful show on YouTube Premium. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
So that is like a super kudos to Adam, and also being able to pick a team of ringers. Believe it or not, there's a lot of amazing talent on YouTube. You know what I mean? And some of those,
they're very talented.
Yeah, and some of the people have natural skills in a lot of other ways, and some people have like educated skills. And I can't imagine what it would be like to work with the group and changing the group up as frequently as you have been, because just because I know some of them, and I know how much they want to interject their own bit all the time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think there's a question here coming from the side here about like using real people versus the YouTube stars, and it's like it could work, but it's like saying using real people instead of actors in your movie.
Right.
It could work. It's just that you omit one of the most important parts of a movie or a TV show, which is the performance, right? You reduce that down to one of its smallest parts. And so I think that it's because these people haven't amassed the followings they've had because they're dumb, right? They actually have something really gifted, and it's unique because they're really great at reacting and interacting real time. And that's when I was kind of conceiving this, because I knew that was who was going to be my cast and how to get the best out of them.
I was gonna actually bring that up. You would have to do this with high caliber YouTubers, because they're skilled at taking something and improving it into something interesting. They'll be met with a moment that could be pretty mundane if they didn't react to it. You know what I mean? And that's right. Pretty regular. So it's like these people are more or less, because of the nature of how they make their living, are very skilled at working with a moment. You just
said it right there. that's the gift, is being able to work with the moment that's happening naturally and not rehearsed or cultivated in advance. Yeah, that's it. That's the gift. Yeah.
Heck
So
yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
no, I definitely appreciate what you're doing in a big way. You know what I mean? It's freaking awesome. You know, I
Thank
can't
you.
wait till the box set comes out and I can like buy it.
Well, I'm definitely interested, in, for myself, I'm excited about working more in this realm. I have other things in the works in this realm, but I'm also, I think, longing, I think, to work in a strictly narrative realm, where it isn't just improvised, and because I think that's now my new challenge is when it's not is improvised, where I'm not, like massaging something for in real time as much, can it be as good? Am I as good at
right.
building a strict box? And I think that's maybe the fun part is kind of like making with the comic book with the Eighth is, I'm a professional writer, but I have not necessarily made it work in this arena, and it's different. It's got different rules, and Brian, you can certainly attest to that.
Oh yeah.
And as a skilled writer yourself, like, and is it going to work? Because it could not, and I certainly made things that have not worked. I think we all have,
Oh yeah.
And
Even Hall of Famers will whiff sometimes at plate, so can't be afraid to whiff.
Yeah.
So since we have a little bit moment here of sidebar, why don't we take a few minutes to let Cindy have the floor, since we're at 40 minutes to show. And please, Cindy, tell us about this film festival, what it's called. Give us the whole thing, as if all of us are completely clueless to it. So.
Okay, so I came up with this idea shortly after everything shut down, film industry shut down. So I'm sure, Adam, like your project is probably shut down, 200 like crew or whatever. So in the film industry, so my big thing is that, well, I work in the film industry as crew. I'm here in New Mexico.
Cool.
I love film, but I haven't always followed it. Like I'm like, oh, what's happening over here? And I'll go explore this or that. So I know I'm digressing a little bit, but anyway, getting back into film, my decision, and then like, oh, everything is shut down. What am I going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to start a film festival. There are so many talented people out there. And I was like, well, the film festivals are shutting down. So I'm going to use some of my contacts and try to get this thing started, and basically focusing on indie filmmakers, because there's so many talented ones out there without representation. So I have, it's a short film festival, and I have a couple of distributors who are actually going to be screening the films, which is, as far as my knowledge base, is kind of a rarity, unless they're just coming to, distributors or producers coming to visit and, go to a film festival, and usually they're walking into films or whatever. So it's kind of scary, because it's just like, making any type of film, you don't know whether it's going to like really take off or not, but it's starting to take off. We're getting some amazing films submitted from around the world that I'm really excited about. And, but I'm not getting a lot in the horror genre. And I love horror. I love horror films. So I was like, when I came across you guys, I was like, I got to reach out and, see if I can come on their show and talk about it, because I can't make any promises, but the opportunity, is there, and, have some fun. I'm keeping the entry fee like super low. All the money that's coming in is going to go back to the filmmakers and awards and, cash prizes, and hopefully they'll be able to score a deal, so that's kind of, it's been a whirlwind. And I'm loving every minute of it. And anyway, so that's kind of like what's going on. And it's called the Kismet virtual film festival. So Kismet for
Nice.
yeah.
For
I'm
Kismet, something that is like Providence, something that is meant to be.
Yeah, something is meant to be, exactly. And spelled with a K, I guess the Russian, coming from the Russian derivative, for Kismet. But yeah.
I've been waiting for this to actually happen. It's something that I've been talking about for years. Like, they need to do more online style film festivals.
Absolutely.
Because, like, the first thing about a film festival, it's usually just the people who are involved in creating the movies that show up at these smaller ones. You know what I mean? That's only whoever sees it. You know what I mean? And then maybe a few other outside people, but for the most part, it's just like the cast and crew from the actual films that are being shown. And then the whoever wins is basically whoever brought the most people with them. Usually, you know what I mean?
It's I think that for my film festival, I just wanted to level the playing field. And because it's become, even some films I think that are very worthy of being picked up, maybe making it turn into like feature or whatever. It's so political in the film world as who gets in and who's selecting the films. So that's kind of like how I decided to do this. Now, we're listed on Film Freeway, but so it's interesting about what I find interesting about this part of the business. So Film Freeway is, I don't know whether you guys have heard of Film Freeway, but it's a platform to submit, or that film festivals will run on and advertise. And a lot of places are not shifting to what's going on in the world, like shifting how they do their business and how they operate. And even Film Freeway is like, they won't list the film festival because it's listed as online and we don't have a physical place for people to go. And I'm like, but this is a new world, you guys. You mean so I'm doing all the advertising myself, because if you go on and look up Kismet Virtual Film Festival, you won't find it. But what they're doing it is for the big players. So here we go again. It's so Sundance and I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that I thought had been around. They will advertise for them, but they're not going to open up the door for the virtual or, experience. So I didn't know how this was going to do, how this was going to work out, especially for when does it come to the festival part of it. And it's great. I met this guy who started a company. He's from India. He's all techie, and he's like, Cindy, we will stream your film festival live. I can make that happen for you. And so this is kind of like the part or the process of filmmaking too, like kind of like what you guys were talking about before, that it's kind of like you come up with an idea or you have a film in your head, and then you start out on the process and to see how it evolves and grows and bursts into something you probably didn't even think was possible. So yeah, it's very exciting. So
I love very cool.
Everybody?
Well, what's an example of a horror movie, Cindy, you would like to see there? Like, if you were to say you wish this horror movie would have been at your festival, which one would it be?
So, any one of them? No.
Yeah, like if you were to pick a horror movie, would it be It Follows? Would it be It? What would be your horror movie if you were to wish?
I like psychological thrillers. So, let's think of there are a lot of them. As a matter of fact, I just watched Adam. I think you were involved with it. The Phoenix Lights. Were you involved with that?
Incidents, yeah. I produced that movie. Yeah.
Kind of like a Blair Witchy in a way, looking at old footage, things like that. I love that. I like all. I'm drawing a blank. I have this. Okay, I'm on now, and I should have written this down.
Once you're on the spot, I know.
I was trying to give people in the crowd, if they were thinking about their movie,
I think,
are they what you're looking for?
I think any horror movie. The only thing that, and I don't want to get into the creative aspect, but I think anything that is gratuitous actually brings the horror movie down. It's not as good, gratuitous in any way, whether too much blood and gore or something. But I like psychological, thrillers.
Sure.
But
Paranormal Activity is a great example of an awesome horror movie. It's all psychological, right? And it really started something spectacular, right? Or even Insidious, right? Which was not necessarily, maybe like you were talking about, or Conjuring. These are movies that I think are some of the best horror movies that had, James Wan as the king of, not necessarily having crazy gore, but like, boy, I mean, The Conjuring, I still think about that film.
Yeah.
That's a creepy one. Everybody, I apologize sincerely, but Mandy, Queen of Comics Kate, just called me. I have to go on her show and sell some comics.
Oh,
Captain.
Gotta go.
Captain Brian, take care.
Take care, Drew. Take care, Adam. Thank you so much for the kind words. And Cindy, best of luck. You're definitely going to want to talk to our friend Karshina, that's for sure.
Oh, great. I look forward to it.
All right. Peace, love, and soul.
Bye.
So. Yeah, he's showing comic books on. We all, even Adam here, we all sell comic books, Cindy, and as well as the other stuff that we do, and that's kind of how we all got to meet each other, pretty much for the most part.
Yeah.
And right now there's a live stream starting up with somebody who has a fairly decent following, and it's an opportunity for Brian to go and try and move some books. So yeah, it's basically just.
Yeah, I wish them the best. And Mandy.
They'll be doing things. Okay, so I put a link in the chat for everybody for the Kismet Virtual Film Festival, and so that you guys can find it on both Facebook and on YouTube there, so you guys know how to get there, how to check it out. You guys check out the entry form, check out the things. Any kind of details you want to tell people, Cindy, about the?
Yeah. So with the short film format, it's 15 minutes is the max, unless it's a webisode. So if it's some type of webisode series, it's 25 minutes or less. And the reason that I took those timings for webisode is that I know that that's going to have the best opportunity for picking up for streaming, because most distributors are saying that the hits, they want series. They want some type of series because people are still conditioned or they just like it. So, and the best format for that is hitting the half-hour time slot. So, which can be 23 to 30 minutes. They're still counting even though there are no commercials, they're still kind of counting that time frame, if that makes sense, if I'm explaining that correctly. So
yeah, they still follow what would be considered broadcast format, where it's 20 to 25 minutes for a 30-minute show, and 45 to 50 minutes for an hour show. Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that better than me. So that's kind of why the setup is for the timeline. It can be less than 25, but that would be for the webisode genre. And those are, that's, other than that, it's go in and submit. It's $15 to enter right now. But if that's that's a little bit, too tough right now, which could be understandable for many people, hey, I'll send you a discount. So just if you go to the link to the website, there's an email there. You can contact me with any questions. But we're really excited about what we're seeing, and I just really would love to see some more in the horror genre.
Well, where I live, we're kind of like one of the horror capitals, so the word's getting out. That's for sure.
Where do you live?
I'm in Fresno, California. Yeah.
Oh, in Fresno. Okay.
But I don't know why, but we make a shitload of horror movies here. I really don't know why that is. It's just we really do.
Well, go horror. Go horror, go home, right?
Yeah. Well, we also have a lot of people that are really like huge metalheads. So like I don't know if those two things work together. You know what I mean? We just have a really large horror community here. So.
Well, we have a music video genre as well. So I'm working with let's see, Warner, Sony Music Division, and another one right now to bring them in as on the selection committee for the music genre.
So on the music video, since we brought that up, is there like a time period? Like does the band have to be an active band? Could it be? So there's lots of people that have made music videos like over the last decade. You know what I mean? So is there like limits to that? Is it like only the current year stuff, or
which brings up a good point on the films too. I decided not to put a limit on how old a piece is, because sometimes, like I've even made, when I was in film school, I made a film. It was kind of experimental. It was kind of crazy, and nobody got it, until a couple years later. The students like behind me, coming up a couple years behind, they're like, oh my God, that's like really cool. They really liked it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm kind of glad you, got it, but thank you. So because of that experience, I didn't really say, okay, it's got to be, made within the past couple of years, or, so no, to answer your question, long story around, I have not put any limits on how old something or how new something has to be. So
fantastic. So that opens it up to a lot of creators, a tremendous amount of creators, because there's a lot of people out there that have movies that haven't gone or music videos that haven't gone mainstream ever. That they would probably be able to enter. That'll be a good thing. We'll make sure
just has to be digital, obviously. To transfer. Right. If something's on film, I still have stuff on film.
Yeah. It's into a VHS tape.
Actually,
it's on Betamax. It's on Betamax.
No, Betamax.
Betamax.
That's old. Yeah, that might be a little too old. Just saying.
I used to edit on a
All right. Well, that's fantastic. Anything else you want to make sure before we go back to Adam? Anything else you want to tell everybody?
I can't think of anything right now, but I think that's pretty much it. It's just we are, and the people working with me. This film festival is by creatives, I should say, or by filmmakers for filmmakers, like in any genre. So we support everybody. Come check us out, and if it feels right to you, enter our festival. We'd be happy to have you. And if any of you guys want to come on the selection committee or judge for horror, I'd love to have you as well. So
that would be fun. Yeah. Brian has like seen just about every horror movie there was.
He is the critic. For sure.
Yeah. He definitely like a Class A choice for that. Definitely.
I'll reach out to him.
Yeah. Excellent. You can find him on Twitter if you can reach me and I can get in touch with him. He's also on Facebook, so he's easy to find.
Thank you so much.
All right. Now, with that said, let's jump over to let's see here. I gotta share the screen again here. Running your own tech on your show. Like one of those things, when you actually are broadcasting and running the production tech at the same time. All right, so this is Adam's website. I'm going to post a link for everybody who wants to find it on their own, and we're going to watch his director's reel so that we can get a little gander at some of the awesomeness that he's been up to. And then we'll talk about this, and then he's got some stuff coming up that he's going to want to talk about. So don't go nowhere. Everybody keep sticking around. We got lots of goodies for you still. So So just be excited here. So we're just going to give this a watch. So everybody grab your popcorn and enjoy the show.
I started having dreams.
One, two, three, one, two, I can make them so loud and magical.
Oh, they are so lovely. There will be punishment.
What have you done with my friends?
Head or gut, little man? Head. You are crazy.
You should see what I've done with the decorations upstairs.
We fall hopelessly in love.
Forever.
Great work, man.
That is great.
Work.
Thank you. That's a bit of a slice of Escape and this other series I did for Netflix, this horror series called Don't Watch This, and then a
Is
few
that still
other
on
bits
Netflix?
and
To
pieces.
watch this?
Yeah, so Don't Watch This. So the episode is Control-Alt-Delete that you see in there with the muscle-bound guy and also the black guy with the black robed guy with the skull head are all a part of that.
So tell us a little bit about that experience. Like, did you pitch the show and then, or did somebody else pitch it and you got selected to work on it, or how did that work out?
So I worked out with Don't Watch This on the episode. So I met with a company called Propagate. I had another who I had some dealings with, and they had a contract to deliver one of the episodes. And that's kind of how with Don't Watch This, Netflix went out to a bunch of production companies that they'd had a lot of work with and said, hey, deliver us an episode for television. And so they called me and said, Adam, what would you do? And so in the room, I pitched this, here's what I would do, because they had a loose concept that they already kind of sold. I said, here's what I would do with it. And in the room, those things that he was putting his hand on, you saw the symbols glow, the big muscly guy, those were in the room where I was pitching, and I pulled them off the wall and explained how I would set the game up. And then I called the actors who I was going to cast in the pitch room and said, are you available? And they said, okay, great. And then we went off and made it. And so it was an unusual setting, where I had very, very little feedback from the network, but it was really fun. It was something I just got to create. It was something in my head that was, spinning off of what they had as their idea, and how to make it this frightening thing, essentially about this guy who is a online troll who's taking advantage of this girl, and then in the machine, the inside of the computer itself, there is this killer that's hunting people like him. And he gets sucked into the machine, and he's essentially having this battle in real life and inside of the machine. And hence you kind of saw him go into the mouth of hell right there for that moment with those bodies that was inside of the game. And so then essentially ultimately sort of dies in the game and in real life. So that's how that horror plays out. And it's really cool. Digital artist who his name is Meats, if you can imagine, who built this amazing world, and then he built it in Unreal, or he built it in Maya and then imported it into Unreal so that the world was like a game, and I could then go in and direct specific shots inside of this world we built. And I built all the games and like the horror elements, and then we would go in. And so it's like I directed a live action portion and then directed another portion in CG with a virtual camera. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, that would be fun, actually, doing the 3D direction with a virtual camera on top of things. That would be a blast. That's like one of those things that it doesn't go cheap though. Like you can't, you have to know somebody who's got the skill set, who's willing to do the work, or somebody who's going to get paid to do it. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, it's mad hours. It's mad hours for sure on the building of the world inside of Unreal. But then once you're in Unreal, it's much faster than normally when you set up a CG shot, you board it out, then you build it a frame at a time. Whereas this, since all the pieces are in there like a video game, you could just say, all right, camera, we're gonna move around this corner and do this, and that's a shot, and then it would just do it real time, and you could capture it versus having to build that a frame at a time. So once you had the assets in, it was actually way faster to do it.
It would be like claymation without having to do it one shot at a time. Yeah.
It's exactly right. It's if you could set up your creatures in claymation and press a button and then they moved.
Right.
Without you having to one at a time. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You could just like say you go from here to here and you put your little keyframes and then say, okay, now run. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
right.
That would be awesome.
It's super cool. So it's called that episode is called Control Alt Delete, and I built this character called the Reckoning. The Reckoning of the Machine, if you will, was the monster in that. And it's funny because the actor who played the monster with the skull head and the one with the big horns, that's the same monster actor. I've used him a ton, and he's so talented. So,
yeah. No, man, obviously you've been on the comic book show that we do. We talked about your book, The Eighth, which is doing tremendously wonderful, by the way. You breaking 30K is a great feat, especially for a first book in this community. And your book is not the traditional platform, so it's even more difficult to do that. So it's major kudos that you've pulled that off. So
thank you. Yeah, The Eighth is a hard, epic and painful story. All my stories tend to have, whether it's in horror or whether it's in this, more of a superhero story, it's painful and a struggle. And I know we built a 200-page hardcover with a slipcase graphic novel versus like a 44-page softcover thing. We built like the big collector's experience, first time out of the gate, and it's what I would want to collect, right? That's what I have on my shelf, and so I thought, well, let's make that thing. So if you haven't backed it or don't know anything about The Eighth, you can check it out on Indiegogo. It's awesome, and it's about a math genius whose brother commits suicide, and he's trying to solve the problem of his life, and he cracks an equation combined with this ancient Sumerian piece of armor that he finds, and he then decides he wants to make the world better, except making the world better means it fights back, and he's mistaken, and he learns the hard way, and violence begets more violence, and he now has to learn from his mistakes and dig deeper into this ancient Sumerian myth while the body count still keeps rising.
Here it is. Why don't we give the video a watch since we're talking about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
According to my math teacher, I'm the smartest kid she's ever met. I solved the Millennium math problem. Nothing changed. My brother still hung himself. My mother's still depressed. The kids at school are still horrifying to each other. But what if there was a way I could fix all that? What if I could take this broken world and reassemble it? And even if the world didn't want to, I would make it change. Make it see things differently. The only problem is that sometimes the world pushes back and makes you do things terrible. Terrible things.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got great promise right there, man. That's going to be awesome.
Thank you so much.
I back so many books that it's difficult to jump on this. So I'm probably going to end up just getting the hardcover edition plus the digital versus
Totally.
the big thing. It's just, I mean, when you back is when you're part of this community, you, as we were talking about earlier, you tend to back a lot of books, and
I backed so many. Yeah.
it gets expensive, man. I you know what I mean? Like
I know.
I backed
It's like
something
your car payment and your comic book payment is about the same some months. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I totally get it. And however it works for you, Mystery, is no big deal either way, Drew. It's like it's just cool to be here on the show and to be talking about it. And it's just much love for that. So don't.
Oh
If
no,
you've got it,
nobody
it's a
ever
cool
tells
thing, and I know it's a tricky time for everyone. So if you've got it, jump on board. If you're not, no worries, dudes, and hopefully we can catch you down the road.
Oh, I definitely want to have it on my shelf with the. I mean, I'm not a. I do like box comics. You know what I mean? I like having my comics in the box, but I really like having the books on the shelves. That's like, you know what I mean? I really like
Yeah,
that.
of course.
So
I'm the same way.
so if your book doesn't go on the shelf, it'll be a great loss to my shelf.
Thank you.
I think
Thank you.
it looks great. I mean, visually, are you going to take it into making it into some type of visual series or is it just promotional?
No, I mean it's that animatic was just just to tease and present the comic book. I would love to see the comic book become other things. I would love to see it become a comic book first, right, and let people get a chance to read it and connect with it. But yeah, hopefully gets to be a reality. Whether in television, film, or video game space or board game space, I would love that, and we'll try and figure that out. I think sooner than later.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
The one thing I noticed that I didn't see on here that I was going to ask you about is I don't see anything like trading cards or pinups or bookmarks or posters.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you were going to do anything like that.
So I guess I always felt as a collector, the thing I liked the most was when stretch goals made the thing you were getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have one print. We have a print that comes that we got once we got funded. Everybody gets an A4 embossed, beautiful, epic print that everyone's going to get. And so that's one print. And then all the other stretch goals, I wanted to improve the actual thing, right? Like trading cards, at least for myself, I seldom go back to them, or prints. A couple of them I hang up, most of them I don't. So I felt like, the thing that you go to is the item itself. So it's like so our stretch goals all add more pages to it, more pages to the book, embossing the cover, spot UV, so that it becomes the actual product you are getting is more magical versus maybe side products. That was the initial thought.
And this is kind of important. Tell everybody how far along the book is. Like, you have the first 2 chapters finished, right?
I have, of the 8 issues, I have 6 done.
6
so
done.
Only
6 of the 8.
6 done. Yeah, 6 of the 8 done. Yeah, we finished the 6th one while we're doing the campaign, and we're 7th is already in roughs right now. And so it's kind of a cool thing. It's going to actually June, July 8th, next Wednesday. Everybody who's backed it, because everybody gets the digital goal, gets issue 1 digitally July 8th, and then August 5th, you'll get issue 2. In September, you get issue 3, just like you were collecting the comic at the shop while you're waiting for the hardcover to arrive. Or if you're not getting the hardcover, then that's how you get to collect the series. And so you get it right away.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that's a nice thing, right? Instead of getting updates every month about what's happening with with the book, you get part of the book every month.
Right. I like how there's you are one of the, like for your first book, you came out, you're innovative. That's, as somebody, like, I appreciate that, because I try to be innovative with my campaigns as well. I think this is great. This is definitely a great artwork, great story concept. You definitely have proven skills in filmmaking, which would transfer easily to the comic medium when you realize that they're just still images. Because which somebody who to explain to people who don't understand, if you ever work with storyboards, comic books are like storyboards with a little bit more style.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That's right. They have a lot of connection to them. The perk about a comic book page, though, is you got to take the art one step farther because you can have different shaped panels, and the way they're arranged on a page becomes a part of the story. Like if you look at that first image there, Drew, if you just scroll down a little bit, you can see like this page was cool because the way the panels are arranged tell part of the story, right? And the way they shrink and they fall is sinking into this thing. So it's like you get to take your storyboards like beyond, like you get to translate them one step farther, which is what's so cool.
Yeah, it's it isn't quite the same as storyboards. I mean, there are some books that are made like that, but the beauty of having a comic world is like with a storyboard, you're not going to try and create an image that you wouldn't be able to create in film, but with a comic book, there is no limitation. You know, you can do something that would be impossible to do on film.
That's right. That's right. And that's totally, and that's a cool thing about it, right? Is that you have different constraints. You have panels and pages and 22-page issues, whereas you just have different things, whereas you have major budget constraints and other things with live action, so to speak. So
right. Yeah,
so
you can tell the same story for a much lower cost in a comic book medium than in obviously a visual video medium of any kind. I mean, whether it was even on a low budget production, it would still cost more to produce something that you could especially if it was like sci-fi or like what you're doing here with the costume, you know what I mean? Like would be a great example of what I'm talking about, because the armor, or what do you call it? You call it it's armor, right? That's on him.
It's armor that's made out of these small nanoparticles that he uses math equations to reshape into weapons and to do other things. Yeah.
The CGI work for something like that to be in a movie would cost a fortune. Yeah, it would probably be half the budget of the movie just to CGI.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I agree, totally agree. That's the fun of it, right? You're going to create something that you don't have that constraint in a comic book. You have a different kind of constraint. So it's really cool.
Right. Yeah. No, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. So okay, so I put the link in the chat for everybody who's curious about the 8th. Go if you want to get yourself if you just want to check it out, the digitals. Obviously, there's the digital issues that come out when they're finished, and you get the first, like when you release it on the July 8th. They're gonna get all the ones that are finished all at once, right?
Actually, they'll get issue 1 and then issue 2, and then
they're gonna get them on a monthly cycle starting at that time.
That's right. Yeah. So that way, ultimately, we can catch up, and so there's no break, and you just get to collect it on through.
Okay, so you'll be able to start your enjoyment on July 8th, roughly, and which is not very long from now. So that's a beautiful thing.
Next week.
Next week. And so and it's a beautiful thing to support indie creators if you can. So it's $25 for the digitals, $55 for the digitals plus the hardcover edition, which is what I have my eyes on because I want that shit on my shelf. And so check that out. What other projects have you been up to? What else are you doing? I know you mentioned to me that you showed me some pictures of stuff that you have that you're working on that's coming up.
Yeah. So the next comic book is a horror comic book. Speaking of why we're here, called Kill Journal, and Kill Journal is about revenants who are evil spirits that are back from the dead, taking the life of the innocent. They do it with chainsaws and they invade nightmares. And this is a story about St. George, this preacher who believes he's been called by God to stop these revenants. And he's rallied these people who have survived revenant attacks. And he's made his little band of misfit soldiers that are going to pick up baseball bats and shotguns and go hunt down these revenants who've destroyed their lives. And And so I've got a few images. I don't know. Do you have those pictures there?
I do. I'm actually in the middle of getting that set right there. So just give me 1 second.
Okay, you got it.
And kapow.
Kapow.
Well,
yeah.
kapow.
So here is the kill journal. This is one of our revenants, and this is one of his poor victims. And so it's amazing art.
No,
by
which one is the
Tom
victim? Which one? No, I'm just kidding, man.
So and so I think we wanted something that was it's like, once again, it's painful, it's epic, it's heartfelt in a very violent, horrific setting, but with people sort of resolving their own traumatic lives in the midst of this attempt to horrifically save the day.
Dare I ask, is this kind of like a more serious side? Like, I think of Ash versus The Evil Dead. That's just what comes up to me, except for that's more like horror comedy. And is this more like horror? Like,
This is horror drama, right? Where at the core of it, we're following characters hunting the killer, and the same, like we're following the people who are hunting down Freddy, versus each movie is a new pack of people for Freddy to kill. It's the other way around in this tale. So yes, more dramatic for sure.
More horror.
But that's the Kill Journal. It's hopefully going to be it'll be coming out this year. This is Sydney, one of our main characters in the story. She's in many ways kind of our point of view character. She's one of St. George's first recruits. And I liked this this art that even had like this nice coloring to it. So even though the world is quite frightening and horrific, we make it we give it sort of the opposite sensation in the art, so that it becomes more digestible.
Yeah, that's good.
Now, when should we expect to see that again?
So you're going to see that for Halloween. You're going to see that coming out in October. And so we are madly working away on it, and hopefully you'll be seeing it in October. So there'll be more details coming out, more images, and so that'll be the next thing. And those who have Back to the 8th, you'll be getting updates on this as well, and as time goes on.
Fantastic. What anything else you can tell us about that you're working on?
I have series at Warner Brothers and at YouTube Originals, but I'm not in that place where I can talk about them just yet. I wish I could, but I am trapped by contracts that say no, not yet. But hopefully soon.
Excellent. Anything? I mean, because we're getting up on the hour and a half mark, which is we would pretty much blow past that if Brian was here, because he likes to pontificate, a little bit more than I do.
But I think that's plenty good. I think anybody who's endured this much time is impressive, and so yeah, I think
so let's ask Cindy. Cindy, is there anything else you would like to tell us about the Kismet Film Festival? Anything you'd like to ask Adam, or any kind of?
Gosh, I could ask Adam like a million things, but I just want to say this is great being on the show, and Mr. E, thank you very much. I'm so glad to be making this connection with you and to get to know more about Adam. And I mean, honestly, what I really like about your work, Adam, is that you, I think, are on the fringe, reshaping films and as far as on the production side, and I think it's amazing, because I think you're in the forefront and you're leading that.
Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you, because something has to change, right? And and I think it's amazing. It's really amazing what you're doing, and that you're as most people are, multi-talented. I love the comic books, and I think if I were to ask you one question, it would be, do you have like a passion where it's like, oh, it's the comic books, or I love doing what I do, but where would you focus all your time if you could?
I think I would focus it like I am at multiple things, because I think I have several passions, and it's the passion is, I guess I would say I have one passion that has several outlets, right? I have a passion of creating story worlds and characters and bringing them to life, and it can be equally as satisfying as a comic book, as a TV show, as a game, as a film. They just offer you something different, and so I think I just have one passion and just different outlets.
I think that's great.
Excellent.
And Mr. E, I think what you're doing is amazing as well. And I tell everybody now, especially what's going on in the world, this craziness, follow your passion, right? And see where it leads. And because I think that's what life is about more than anything, here to experience and express ourselves.
Well, it's definitely one thing that I would communicate over and over again to everybody, is that there's no better time than now. You know what I mean? No matter what's going on in the world, there's no better time than right now. You pick up your computer, pick up a pencil and paper, start writing something. If you got a story to tell, start making notes. You know what I mean? Don't just let it sit around. Don't wait. Do something. Be proactive at all times. If you don't have the opportunities of connections of big studios, if you don't have the opportunities of doors being open for you, do what's available to you. YouTube is an open, free platform to use. You can upload stuff there. You can share it on Twitter. You can share it on Facebook. There's no limit to what you can do, and you have to start. You have to start. You know what I mean? So there's no better time than now.
Yeah. Can I say something real quick? I got lost or sidetracked off a film for a while, and I was working in a job that was just like sucking my soul out of me. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who are probably experiencing the same thing. And like what you were saying, Mr. E, now is like the time. And I found that I just couldn't do it anymore. And ended up for whatever reasons, just, okay, I made up my mind. And I'm like, I'm going to go this way. I'm going back to film. And then the, everything went crazy with the coronavirus and around the world. But if people, I know some people are really freaked out about that. But like what you were saying, Mr. E, about like now is the time. And it was like, just push whatever it is, go inside, find your passion, and just go for it, right? Because who wants to have your soul sucked out by somebody else you care about?
I imagine Adam's gonna like relate to this, because like when I sit down and I write something, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's there, and it's okay. So like I love reading stories, I love watching movies, but it's not as cool as watching what I'm actually creating develop. That is like the coolest thing ever for me. You know what I mean? So I could write if I like, to me, my whole future goal is to have the time, the stuff. Like, I mean, obviously, I want the stuff to come to reality. But the best part of the whole thing is not the end product; it's making it at the beginning.
I bet you feel more alive.
Exactly.
Like more alive, like more energy and passionate.
It's breathing life into something that didn't exist before. That's what it is.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Absolutely.
It's like giving birth for the closest thing probably, because I'll never be able to actually give birth. So that's like the closest.
That's the thing. Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Mr. E, for having me on, and Cindy, thanks for sharing the screen time with me. This has been super cool, and thank you. And continue the love, and continue making your short films, Mr. E, and send me some. Definitely. Hey, so everybody, thank you for coming out. We're going to go ahead and end this stream. You guys hang on real quick so we can talk a little bit in the backstage. And thank you so much. And make sure that everybody's watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and make sure you check out the 8th. And definitely now it's still only available on YouTube Premium, right? YouTube Red. No, that's now all in front of the paywall. You can get to it now.
All right, so everybody go and watch.
They just moved it. Yep.
Yeah, definitely go and watch Escaping the Night, because that is an absolute YouTube gem. It is something that if you follow YouTube at all, you will have multi levels of appreciation. And I haven't got to watch the second season yet, so I can't wait to see what hilarity comes out of DeStorm. I mean, DeStorm Powers is he's a funny
He's
guy.
awesome.
And
Love him.
he's hilarious in person, like more so than on screen. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm
He's
just
the best.
curious how that's gonna. Yeah. So it's like, all right, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye bye, guys.
Bye.
Ending the stream.